Tim Shiedler, the creative force behind Rusty Mud's spices?
Well, first of all, my real name is Tim Shiedler, like you said. I used to perform at Renaissance festivals, specifically the Kentucky Renaissance Festival, the Illinois State Renaissance Festival, Fisher's Fair, and a couple of others here and there. And I performed for about 15 years. And my character was a cantankerous old Scotsman. A cantankerous old Scotsman who had wandered about the village after his ship was in port, and his name was Rusty Mud.
Okay.
And he would go about the village singing songs and playing tunes and generally entertaining the folks. And so I've just always used that. So when I came up with my spice blend, I decided to call it, Rusty Mud's Steak and Pork, spice blend. So that's kind of how that came about. There are still people out there that come up to me and go, "Hey, Rusty, how you doing?" Because I answered
your name
all
is
of the
Rusty
above.
Mud.
Yeah, well, then, and the surname Mudd is actually my maternal grandmother's maiden name. So I am part of the Mudd family. If you go down into South Central Kentucky, you'll find us all over the place. And the very first fair I was performing at, it was cold and rainy, and I ducked into a vendor's booth and I asked to perform. I hadn't come up with my name yet. I hadn't finalized everything, and I started playing, and because my fingers were cold, I played a few wrong notes. So I said, "I'm sorry, I'm Rusty." She said, "Hi, Rusty, I'm Nuriana." So I just went, "Well, I guess that's it."
That's it.
So that's how I got the name.
You wasn't rusty, you was just cold.
Well,
so now the first question, is why does Rusty Mud's blends are designed to empower and not intimidate everyday cooks? And I use the blend and I use it at a kind of a high-end event, and we got rave reviews. So go ahead.
Well, firstly, I like a lot of flavor in my food. I'm not one that likes bland food, so it's got to have a little kick to it. It's got to have a little uplifting to it. And I also, a number of years ago, had to have open heart surgery. So I had 4 bypasses. And because of some medical conditions, I can't have salt. So I decided, well, let's come up with a blend of spices that gives a lot of flavor to food, but doesn't have any salt in it. So I don't have to worry about, the high blood pressure issues or, the water retention or anything like that. So I just came up with a blend that has a lot of good spices in it, I forget what the one's called, asperdica or something like that, and it's got, if you eat it raw, it smells like underarm, cheese.
We wouldn't be eating underarms.
No, but when it cooks, it smells wonderfully and it tastes wonderful. And I blended in some, pepper and some salt substitute and some, garlic and a few other things. And I played with it for a while. And eventually, when I thought I had the mix, I gave a sample to you and I gave a sample to Nick Semicides, who's one of the owners of Cofinas Olive Oil, where I work. And you guys both loved it. That kind of solidified, okay, I've got the right blend here.
Because I used it at an event on a bunch of Wagyu steak and rave reviews.
Oh, we were going real high end. Okay.
We were high. It was a Wagyu. Yeah. I had a private Wagyu steak event. Organization moved from Texas to West Virginia. We had a connection from West Virginia to Cincinnati. I got pulled in. Me and Chef Pitts went over there and we knocked it out. And the tip told the story.
There we go. Well, just so everybody knows, I met Chef Jordan. He went by Chef Anthony back then. But I remember I first met you years ago at the Community Blend down in Evanston.
With Deion Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you had some great mac and cheese.
Thank you.
Man.
I was at that place because I was opening a food truck and we were trying to just put the food out and see what type of response we get from the food, and partnered with Dion and Community Blend. Shout out to Dion and Community Blend.
Yeah,
Dion has his own catering business now, and so
yeah.
and that's how that happened. But
Yeah,
the
the
ugly question,
community blend. The community blend is now sugar and spice. It was
right,
bought by some other people who make really delicious snacks and things. So the coffee shop is still there. But you know the other thing we have to consider when we're dealing with spices is quality.
right, and that was my next question. The ugly. Why food media often glorifies the complexity over accessibility?
That is a good question. I think because, so much food has gotten so frou. You know, they
Mhm.
think that gourmet means, well, you throw a bunch of stuff in here and, the worse it tastes, it must be high quality. Well, no. No, I mean, you can come up with a compliment. I've got some soup recipes that have tons of ingredients in them.
Right.
But the key is the ingredients have to work together to produce a pleasant taste. And you're not going to get the best results unless you're using high quality spices. Going to the grocery store, maybe you will, and maybe you won't get something good.
Mm,
I like to use Colonel D spices when I'm doing my mixes because I know that they've got very high quality.
right.
And, a good spice, the right good spice will help bring out the flavor of what you're cooking and it will enhance it.
It enhances and not overpower it, because it's like now it's like the more complex the dish is, or the procedure to make the dish, the less accessible it is, because all of a
Right.
sudden now it's exclusive, and it's like some restaurants in New York, it's a 6 month waiting list to get in there because the dish is so complex and it's so exclusive and this and that, and it's
Yeah.
it's almost kind of a turnoff sometimes.
And food does not have to be complex.
Right.
There's a reason that mom's home cooking has such a wonderful reputation. It's because it's home cooking. It tastes good,
Right.
you
It's
know,
simple and it's good and it's wholesome.
and it's usually got a lot of fat in it. But, I mean, hey, I mean, who makes the best fried chicken? Mom.
Mom, of course.
Absolutely. You know,
Wife, mom, or whoever,
so
a sister. If it's at home, most of the time, if it's at home, it's because it's a vibe that go with it. It's not just
yeah,
the food itself. It's a whole vibe. Just watching them cook, hearing it, sizzle, and in the process, and hearing them, hit somebody, get out the kitchen, get out my way, stuff like that. It's the whole atmosphere, the family,
yeah.
the camaraderie, the love,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's what I like.
Oh, yeah.
Why does small batch makers like Rusty Mud often struggle to compete with the big box brand?
Because we're not well known. A small batch maker, the biggest problem they have is getting exposure and getting into places. Now, the advantage you have with somebody who is a small batch maker is they're doing something that is a labor of love, and they are putting together something that in their mind tastes really, really good. And they're worried that they're more concerned with the customer, not just going, hey, we need to sell 10,000 units. That's the thing. And that's one of the reasons why I love working for Cofinus Olive Oil. We're a tiny little company. There are six of us. Evie, the foundress, and John, they go over and they supervise all of their olive harvest, and they supervise all of the pressing, and they bring it back. They make sure that it's done right, that the quality is there. And we do our own bottling and we do our own infusion. So
Mhm.
there is no worry about what some middleman somewhere is doing to cheapen
Right.
things just to drive the price down. And our first concern is always, hey, we want to put out the best quality that we can. And, we still have people that around Cincinnati who've never heard of us. But the other thing is having a good quality product. At least for me, the other secret is caring about your customer.
Hmm.
You know,
A little bit
treating
more.
your customer right, because you know what? If you make a friend, they're going to be a customer for life. And
Yes.
we have so
Yes.
many people that come back and, they love our stuff. They love talking to us. They love, I got a compliment the other day from
I'm
a
gonna give
lady.
you a compliment. When I came down to get that memory card for the
Yes, sir.
pictures, you didn't know I was standing there. It were two women who were asking you questions. I was blown away and very impressed by your knowledge of kafinas and everything. That I'm just standing there and I'm just listening. I'm trying not
Okay.
to interrupt, of course, what you're doing, and the customer keep looking at me like, I'm saying, no, just go ahead. You never seen me. I listened to you and I told Nick, I said, that's the man. That's the man you
Yeah,
want at that counter, because as a customer, I'm spending my money. I hate to say it, and some people might get mad. Impress me. You know,
exactly.
influence me. Convince me to buy the product. Make me feel good that when I spend my money and I walk away, I got more than just the product. I built a relationship.
Exactly.
I got a
You
new
just took the
friend.
words right out of my mouth. That's the whole thing is, there's an old saying, bad people love money and use people. Good people use money and they love people. And
Mm,
that's the whole thing about customer care, whether you're developing spices or, whatever product or service you're selling is you've got to care more about the customer. You've got to
mhm,
care as much about the customer as you do about the product. Now,
mhm.
you want to care about the product. You want to put the best product out there
Yeah.
that you can put out there. And, we do. But the first thing is having a good relationship with your customer, because a friend will always come back and a friend will always support your business. And you have to give them that reason to come to your business
Choose you
because
over anybody else.
exactly.
Come from East Gate, come from Ellesmere, Kentucky, to get one bottle of olive oil, because they know when they get there, it's
Yeah.
consistent, it's the same, and it had love in it. It was taken
We
care
have
of.
people, we people who drive down from Oxford, and we have
Right.
people who drive down from Dayton because, in Oxford, I mean, obviously they've met Evie and John and they bought it there, but, in the wintertime, there's no farmer's market up there. So they
Right.
literally will drive down to Findlay Market to visit us to get our olive oil. Because we not only care about our olive oil, we care about our people. And I'm the same way with my spices. I care about putting together a good quality product. Just like you care about, putting,
Yes.
just throw slop on there.
I'll cut somebody out in a minute. Hey, no, we don't cut corners here. Because it's important. You know, I know people who do events, and they spend most of the time trying to impress the person who hired them, in who's paying the bill. But if they invite 12 other people, those are your potential customers. You
Exactly.
can't treat them no different than the person who's paying.
Exactly.
Whose house the event's at, who booked the event center, none of that. It has to be all the way around, even from, the purveyors, to people you buying your products from to do the catering, things like that, your employees, your
Right.
helpers for that day or whatever. Last question. What's the biggest problem in how Americans approach flavor?
I think one of the big problems is we have grown up on a society of fast food. And fast food, in order to make money, they use cheap ingredients. They use high levels of salt just to overload your taste buds.
And
And
preserve
people
it.
don't really know what good food is. You know, Good food does not have to be heavily salted. Good food, you can have simple vegetables. You can grow your own vegetables. And I'll tell you what, they will taste as good. Actually, they'll taste better than what you get in, a McDonald's or a Burger King or something like that. And that is part of the problem is, we have so many people who are just addicted to fast food and cheap snacks and all this stuff. And we as a country need to learn more about home cooking, finding locally sourced, good quality, preferably organically grown vegetables and, good quality, grass-fed beef and pork and chicken and all that, that's going to taste 5 times better than what you get from Tyson or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
Because
was. I know for a long time I thought organic was just a gimmick. I'm going to shop for a client one day. I go in Kroger's and I'm starving. And the closest thing to me was the produce section, and they had the organic apples. So I grabbed
right,
the apple, went back to the counter, grabbed the apple, paid for it, and proceeded to shop. And when I bit into that apple, I stopped into my tracks because I had never tasted anything so clean, so fresh. You could tell the difference, just the taste. It
right.
was totally different from your average apple, and that's when I became to respect organic.
The other thing is, cooking is not rocket science. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, you're going to make mistakes at first.
Yeah.
Everybody does. But the thing is it doesn't have to be some sort of mystery. You don't have to be one of these
Right.
Uber chefs that comes up with, some wacky combination. It's just a matter of learning how to cook the food, taste and smell the different spices and herbs and things that you're going to put into the food so that you get an idea of okay, what's going to go together.
Mhm.
That's how I taught I'm totally self-taught. That's how I taught myself. That's how I make I'm known for my soups actually when I go and cook for friends or for different groups, because I'll
I
spend
know. Hold
four
on, hold
hours
on, hold
making.
on. Time out, time out. Soups and how I'm just now hearing about soups.
You didn't know that?
No,
There's
sir.
another
I'm mad
information
now.
on my
Podcast
recipe.
is over.
Yeah,
Podcast is over.
but
I'm mad now.
I just taught myself how to make soup. And the first thought that went through my mind was, how do I get the liquid? Well, you start with the vegetables that give off the liquid,
Yeah.
and you start cooking those, and then you add your ingredients, and you sniff and you taste, and you build up that stock, and
Hmm.
then you add water as you need it, and you add seasonings as you need it, and then you add your meat or your big vegetables, whatever you're gonna make the soup out of. Like I said, I mean when I make a pot of homemade soup, a lot of times I'll cook for a group that I'm part of called the Riley School of Irish Music, and I'll do a triple batch because it goes that fast.
I
And,
believe it.
I mean, I spend the night before. It takes 3 to 5 hours, but you can make enough soup that you can stick it in the fridge or the freezer and eat it for a week.
Hmm.
You know, and
Whew.
it's you buy good, some locally sourced, ingredients, and it tastes so much better. And it's
What you
so much
start with is what you're gonna end up with.
exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
You're
You
right.
buy
Okay.
you buy crap, it's gonna be crap,
All right.
you know? But,
Okay, Mr. Tim.
absolutely.
That's a wrap on today's episode with Tim Shiedler of Rusty Mud Spices. From bold blends to bigger conversations, he's shown us that flavor isn't just about taste, it's about power, pride, and possibility. Stay curious, stay hungry, and keep questioning everything food. Thank you, sir. I'm going to
You're
get down to
welcome.
Finley
Thank
Market.
you.
I need some soup. I don't want to hear any mess. I don't want to fight with Nick Mercedes. I'm on my way.
Okay. Well, when I make a batch of soup, we'll make enough that nobody has to fight over it because there'll be plenty.
All right. Thank you. Have
You're
a nice
welcome.
day.
Absolutely.